All right, good afternoon, traders. Today is October 15th, 2025. My name is John Kerrigan. I am the lead instructor here at the BYOB Trading Room. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody out there, podcast land, digital land, cyber land. Thank you to all the paying subscribers. Appreciate that. I don't take that for granted. Try to provide actionable, profitable content every single day. All right, let's take a look at the markets today, how I made 5K with a 60K account. All right, let's start off with, you know what, I got another announcement. Okay, just want to remind everybody that Thursday, tomorrow at noon, I'll be in the combo room from noon until 3 o'clock. Ed Carter's going to present, I think, or Doug Campbell. Pretty sure it's Ed at noon, I'm at 1, and then Rick's at 2 p.m. Okay, so we're going to talk about the markets tomorrow, and the topic's going to be position sizing and how many positions to have on at one time. All right, so that's for members only. Okay, that's the privilege of being a member. You get to capture some of these learning events from the rest of us. All right, so let's move this over. Let's get this out of the way, and let's pull this down. And I think I've got I just want to show you guys I've got SPY price action right here. It's going to open up pretty soon here. Any day now. There it is. All right, so here's price action this morning. As you can see, we left off yesterday. We had a 10-minute downtrend, okay? So I would be looking for normally a continuation of the 10-minute downtrend under VWAP. We didn't get it. Instead, price bounced off of VWAP, started an uptrend that lasted all the way up until about 670 up here. Okay, so you can see we had a 10-minute uptrend. Then went into the post market, then carried on into the morning hour, and it carried on into the open market, right on up into two climactic candles right here, okay, into 670 into the morning. And then from there, if you look at this carefully, you can see, all right, that would be the spike candle on the 10-minute chart, and that would be the rubber band candle. And they failed to break the rubber band candle up here. All right, so because we failed, price, the energy within the rubber band pulls price right back to VWAP, and then sent us packing to the low side, okay? So now we've got a spike candle here, all right, and a rubber band candle here, which fails to make and close a lower low, and then we're looking for price to come back to VWAP. It does not make it, so then we roll over and then produce exhaustion candles right into the noon hour right here, okay? And then from the noon hour, that exhaustion candles right into the gap fill, right there, and then we buy the low down here, right into, see where VWAP left off yesterday, okay? And then you've got right here, this is always a target, all right? See this target, this would be VWAP. This is where VWAP left off yesterday, and today's today, okay? And then you got the gap fill, so you got two targets here. You got gap fill, and then you've got VWAP right there. So we're looking for those two targets, and we got one more that was lower than that, and that was this candle low right here. As you can see, got a big tail candle develops, and then price reverses and heads all the way back up to VWAP up here, okay? So failed to make a lower low, so a significant lower low. So what's going to happen now is they're going to come back up and probably test the high. So I wouldn't doubt it. If I see a continuation of the 10-minute uptrend that winds up gapping up in the morning and probably opening up right here near the top of the range. We'll see what happens. But that was the price action. So let's outline. Hopefully my drawing tools work this morning. Okay, so this morning I map off the low, all right? And I'm going to show you my low. I kind of expand it a little bit to include all of this consolidation over here. Even though this was the low of the pre-market, I did not want to exclude this consolidation, which happened late in the day on the day before. That was late in the day yesterday. So I expand my open market range up until the high. So I put a green line up here, and then down here into this consolidation. So I put a green line right there. As you can see, that's a place where price bounced right into that consolidation. You can see we got a bounce there. Okay, so if we would have broke out this side, okay, I was willing to trade it into targets of, here's the first target. Okay, this would be the highs of all of this post-market consolidation from here over to here. So I'll box that off so you can get a view of that, because this is how I box things off and kind of set things up. Okay, so is this going to work? Not going to work, is it? Not going to work. Okay, so let's try one more time. Because let's see if I do this. Okay, so I'm going to try to box this off. So, no, that's not going to box off. All right, so you know what I'm going to do? This always happens to me. I don't know why. I hate these drawing tools. They just don't want to cooperate sometimes. And we have a fix for that. There it is right there. Okay. So I'm going to box off this consolidation right through here. All right, so I'm going to box off all this consolidation right there. Okay, and now you can see we've got consolidation right here. So this would be bearish because we're consolidating underneath prior consolidation, right? This would be bearish. Okay, but we open up and that 10-minute uptrend continues to grind up into the overnight hour. All right, and then we consolidate up here above this consolidation, which makes my bias bullish. Okay, because we're consolidating over these two right here. That gives me a bullish bias right out of the gate in the morning. Okay, normally I would have expected a continuation of this 10-minute downtrend that we had coming into the close. Okay, and you can see where VWAP left off. So that becomes a point of interest or a target on the downside. So I draw a line right on that. And then, of course, that was a pretty thick line. I draw a line right there. That's going to be one of my targets if we broke out to the downside. But because my bias is bullish, because we got consolidation over those two prior consolidations right there. My next target is going to be, of course, right there. That would be the gap fill. Okay, and then I've got yesterday's dip low candle right there. Okay, so notice we didn't get any lower than that. And that would have been my third target right there. And then, of course, my fourth target, okay, would have been, this is how I think in the morning, right up here. Okay, see those, you got a peak, a candle wick up there, and a bearish engulfing just barely visible right there. Okay, so those would be my downside targets if we break below this consolidation base right here. So if we broke below that, these would be my targets for the downside. Okay, so, but we didn't, all right? So instead, we had a continuation of the pre-market, I'm going to zoom in here, of the pre-market, post-market, and pre-market 10-minute uptrend, okay? So I'm picking off the lows of the candles. It sounds like deja vu, doesn't it? Okay, because I had a bullish bias. I'm picking off the candle lows over here, and of course we rallied up yesterday. Well, I did the same thing here. I'm picking off the lows of these candles. I even said it. And then price action rips up through the base, okay? So that's the top of the base. This is the opening range, all right? See, this is the morning range up here. I'm including this consolidation. So you have a red erases green event right there. Okay, that's an entry right there. Okay, you don't have to look around for anything else. As long as that candle closes up there, for me, that's a bullish entry. My stop goes 10 cents under the low of day right here. That's where my stop goes. 10-minute candle rips up through VWAP. That's my spike candle. Next candle is my VWAP, is my rubber band candle. So this becomes rubber band candle. That's the free floating candle up above the spike candle. Surpasses the spike candle. But we fail to close candles up here over the rubber band candle. So what happens is the energy in the rubber band draws or magnetically pulls price all the way back to VWAP right here, okay, which was the top side of our opening range right here. Now normally you would come back to here and you would bounce out of here after testing probably the low of the range, the first 15-minute range right up here. Okay, you box off the first 15 minutes. Normally you would bounce out of there after testing the low of that range, but we didn't. Okay, instead, candle started to grow in nature and size. Okay, and of course, I traded the bounce right here at the bottom of this consolidation right here. So I'm buying blindly into this base consolidation for a bounce back to VWAP. Didn't quite get there, but I did make some money on this bounce back up to the 8 EMA. All right, and then of course, then we roll over again, and now we produce exhaustion candles, okay, right into these targets. You've got 3 targets here. You've got the low from yesterday's dip, you've got the VWAP right here, and then you've got the gap fill right here. So all 3 targets. All right, we produce exhaustion candle. All right, big candle at the end of the move, right into the support. Okay, so how do I know that's support? Okay, so let's zoom out. Let's take a look at this. Okay, you can see where price comes up and stops, and you can see where price comes down and stops. Okay, you can see it clearly right here where price moves from this low up to this high and gets halted. You see the little wick right there, little sellers happening right there. Okay, now you look around here, price action here comes from this consolidation and comes down. See the tail? Same spot. Okay, so they both meet right there. So that's where I draw my line. That's going to be support. Okay, it's where bulls and bears, here comes price, gaps up, and then pulls back, and it finds support right here, and then it bounces up and then moves to the right there. Okay, so you can tell this is support because price comes down to it and then bounces up. Price goes up to it and it becomes resistance when we're underneath it, but when we're above it, now it becomes support right there. You can see it. See the tail developed here? See the tail comes into this and then we bounce out of there. Okay, so that's where support is. So we had 3 different support. We had gap fill, all right, that would be yesterday's close. Okay, and then we had price action here would be VWAP, and then of course you've got the support resistance where price comes down to the same location and bounces away, or comes up to the location and is halted, all right, until traffic can resume to the upside right there. So that tells me that this is resistance. A resistance when you're underneath it and support when you're above it. Here it comes. We've got a biggest candle at the end of the move. The move starts here and tumbles down to here, all right? And we still come tumbling more. So now I'm looking for a bigger candle than those 2 red candles there, and I get it. 2 bigger red candles right into support. I'm buying the support blindly right through here to have it bounce back up to VWAP. So I traded the 10-minute uptrend there. I failed to trade the downtrend there because I was buying the dip, looking for the pullback to VWAP. We failed to get it, and then we get a continuation of the 10-minute downtrend. Okay, remember this is counter trend because we got a 2-hour uptrend now. All right, because the 3 crosses over the 8, and we're in a daily downtrend, but it's not moving down, it's moving up. All right, so that's bullish for me. And we get a weekly uptrend and a monthly uptrend. Okay, so I'm buying the dip right through here. That's what gives me the courage to buy the dip. Not to mention, okay, let's go back and look at the price action here. Let's take this off. Okay, there's one more clue to tell you to buy the dip. All right, to give you the courage to buy the dip, and that is looking at the price action from the day before. Let's go to the daily chart. Okay, big red candle, no follow through. Igniting candle down with no follow through. Look, they failed here and they failed yesterday. Okay, no follow through, and they even tried to follow through here, but they failed to make a significant lower low. Okay, so this tells me there's a strong possibility price is coming all the way back up to the top to test the highs again. That's what it tells me. All right, and lo and behold, what happens? Well, we got pretty darn close right there, 670. All right, so then we had a rollover, made a little higher low right here. Now I'll be looking for price to probably gap up and make another higher high later on tomorrow. We'll see what happens. So there's SPY. So back to the 10-minute chart. Okay, so you can see here's the rollover. All right, and then we commence a 10-minute trend right back up to VWAP. And of course, we kind of struggled through there in the closing hours. And of course, you can see after everyone's closed and gone away, they're starting to rip it back up over VWAP. I would look for this continuation of this 10-minute uptrend into the post-market and probably into the pre-market if you're trading futures tomorrow morning. All right, so probably look for this 10-minute uptrend to continue there. So I'm going to push this over. So if I was trading futures tonight, okay, if I was, all right, I would look for bull flag price action. All right, this would be the bull flag, and I would trade from the perspective of here up, here up, here up. You're going to see a bottom develop. Here up, continue with this. Just trade to the up. Not getting rid of 100% when I got up here. I'd leave a couple for reserve, just in case they finally want to break out and produce another consolidation over prior consolidation in the morning hours, right up there. Okay, so that's what I would do right there. Is I would trade the continuation of this 10-minute uptrend into the close and into the morning hours. That would be my plan right there if I was trading futures tonight or in the morning. All right, so I'm going to take that out of the way. All right, so let's go look at the 10-minute chart. We got a 10-minute. Okay, let's zoom in here. We got a 10-minute uptrend. Continuation of that 10-minute uptrend into the close. It's like a one-candle uptrend right there. They closed it out, but, 15-minute. Look at the 15. The 15 is still open. Consolidating into the close up there. So I'd look for this to break out. And, of course, you can see it's already starting to break out there. So continuation of the 10-minute uptrend, okay, into the close. Let's look at the 2-hour. Okay, and on the 2-hour, let's take the pre-market off. Actually, we can leave it on there. You got the 3. Okay, here's our 2-hour uptrend. The 3 is now crossed up over the 8 and is above the 8 now. So we have a 2-hour uptrend. Not a very strong. There's not a whole lot of space between the 3 and the 8 EMA, but there is daylight. Okay, if you look closely, there is daylight between the 3 EMA on the 2-hour chart and the 8 EMA. Okay, it's enough to call it an uptrend. It's not really moving up, but it is moving to the right, and it is holding the higher ground. Okay, that's bullish when that happens. So we got a 10-minute uptrend. We got a 2-hour uptrend. On the daily chart, we'll peek at it one more time. I'll show it to you. Okay, on the daily chart, we have still a downtrend, all right? But get this, we're not moving down. Okay, we're not moving down. It's a downtrend because we broke this low. Technically, all right, but here's the caveat, we're not moving down. We're moving up instead of down because this failed to have the follow through. So everybody else that knows the rules knows that without the follow through on this big candle, they're coming back up here to test the highs. Okay, so they're buying the dip too, right along with me. So I'm right alongside of them, doing the same thing because we're all following the rule. No follow through, gonna probably come back up here and try to test those highs right up there. Okay, see that? No follow through there, no follow through here, or they tried, all right, and they failed to produce a significant lower low, so hence we're coming back up to the highs right there. So there's SPY on the daily chart. So I'm going to pan way out, and I'm going to take all of this stuff off, all right, because it's no longer needed, all right, because we already went through the pre-market, and I showed you how I set it up, how I form my bias, and how I just start picking off the lows of the candles, and there's a reason for it, okay? And I showed you the reason, because I develop a bias based on the price action, not just one candle. I'm basing it on the price action, okay? So here's our April low, and we're still up here at the top of quadrant 4. Okay, that's bullish from this perspective, okay? But let's go over here and let's put the quad lines in, okay, from this side, from the perspective of the high to the low. Okay, notice we're closing over the midpoint. Not quite in the upper third up here, not yet. But we sure did get up there today, okay? This would be the upper third. That's the high, and this is the low of the big dip pullback right here down to the 50 SMA. So if we start closing candles up here in the upper third, okay, that's bullish. All right, look out above. We're probably going to come up here and make some new highs. All right, so there's SPY on the daily chart. Okay, we're bullish. We're in technically a downtrend that's not working. All right, so it's a failing downtrend. In other words, we got a downtrend, but price is moving up. Okay, it's not moving down. Okay, so there's SPY. So we got the 2-hour uptrend. We got the 10-minute bullish consolidation. And then we've got the daily chart that it's in technically a downtrend that's not working. And then we've got the weekly chart. Okay, you can see price action. See all the green dots here on the 17 EMA. Clearly in an uptrend, still right there. Okay, monthly chart. Clear. See all the green dots. And you got the candle on top of the 3. 3's on top of the 8. All right, got some daylight between the two of them, the 3 and the 8. Clearly a monthly uptrend, okay? So the trend goes on, all right? We are still bullish, okay? Even with that big, ugly red candle that we had the other day. Even with this, we're still bullish based on this right there, okay? So there's SPY. We had a game plan this morning. I don't think it even triggered in because we went up. All right, so here's our game plan. We were already consolidating above the game plan. So this was our bullish line right here. Red erases green, of course. We were already up there in the morning, so all I needed to do was pick off the lows of those candles to ride it up. Okay, so that was the green erases red over there. And this was the pivot. And you can see where price snapped right down into my pivot. See my pivot right here? That's the brown line, 660.50. Here comes price, comes down, rolls over right into the pivot and bounces. Nice bounce, $5 bounce. That's nice when you get a $5 bounce off the pivot. Okay, that's a beautiful thing. Just saying. Okay, so there's SPY on the 5-minute chart. All right, let's take a look at QQQ. Okay, I'm going to say QQQ is kind of set up just like SPY, but I'm going to go to a clean chart so you can see it. Okay, so again, our bias is bullish because we have Yet again, the same thing, okay? We got consolidation, okay, over prior consolidation. Gives me the bias bullish, the bullish bias. I got them reversed. All right, now you see up here, we're going to draw the breakout lines. So we got a line up here. We're going to take another one. All right, we're going to drop it in right underneath that consolidation base right there. Okay, so this is going to be my opening range. Okay, from this low up to this high. So if we break out on the bottom side, okay, I want to be trading down. If we break out on the top side, I want to be trading up. So this is right here becomes, all right, my red erases green. Okay, see the red pullback? Okay, so I'll draw a red box so you can see the red pullback. Okay, so red box, price goes from this high down to this low. Okay, now here comes the green box. This is where green erases red. See right there? Where does it erase the red? Right here, it surpasses the red. So right there becomes my breakout buy right there. There's my entry right there on that candle. Doesn't go far. Was looking for more follow through. Didn't quite get it. This is a 5-minute chart. But anyways, there's my breakout. So I trade that breakout. Make a little bit of money off of that. Notice that the bullish 10-minute rubber band candle cannot be broken up there. So what happens? The energy in the rubber band recalls price back to VWAP. VWAP's pretty much almost always our point of interest. Okay, so that's where the magnet lies. So it sucks price all the way back to VWAP here. Okay, now normally it would test the opening range and then bounce back up and make another breakout. But it didn't. Instead, it failed to meet VWAP. That's your clue. We're probably going to roll over yet again. And we did right into the dip low from yesterday. Here's the dip low. And right into that dip low right there. And then, of course, you got those exhaustion candles. Again, whenever you see the biggest red candles at the support area, at the end of the move, there's probably a very good chance that price is going to bounce out of here like a red rubber school ball back up to VWAP. All right, so big candle comes into support. All right, at the end of the move, all right, it's probably going to bounce like a red rubber school ball up over the student's head, right back up here up to VWAP. Okay, so there's QQQ. Let's look at QQQ on the 10. All right, and let's see what we got on QQQ on the 10-minute chart. Okay, I'm going to clear all this off. Okay, on the 10, we have an uptrend, but yet we're not breaking down and we crossed under. So I'm going to call this consolidation, or I'm going to call it a weak one candle uptrend, or I'm going to call it bullish consolidation. Either way, it's the same to me. A weak one candle uptrend or bullish consolidation, because you notice we got a bull flag. Price moves up and over to the right. I would look, again, just like SPY, I would look for price to consolidate over prior consolidation, okay, in the morning or in the night, maybe even both. Okay, you may get some consolidation, may develop up here before 8 o'clock. And then when we open up in the morning, we might get some that develops up here in the morning hours at 4 a.m. in the morning up here. And that would be consolidation over prior consolidation. That would give me a bullish bias. I would be looking to pick off the lows of the candles yet again for the third time. All right. Or trade the continuation of the 10-minute uptrend right there. Okay. So 10-minute is a bullish consolidation or a weak one candle uptrend on the 10-minute chart. And let's look at the 2-hour. And I'll snap the 2-hour up here. A little messy, but you can see it. The yellow 3 EMA has crossed up over the white 8 EMA. You can see it riding up here. And there is daylight between the yellow 3 EMA right there at the top of the finger over the white 8 EMA. Okay, we got daylight between the two, makes this a bullish 2-hour uptrend right there. Okay, not a lot of space, but there's just enough to qualify. All right, so there's QQQ. Let's take a look at the daily chart now. Come down here, hit the daily chart. Okay. Okay, notice there's no tail underneath the 17 for QQQ to break. So QQQ still in an uptrend. Let's take this off. We don't need that anymore. Okay, so QQQ is still in an uptrend. Okay, get the big ugly red candle, but yet price has no follow through. Okay, so probably coming back up here to test the highs. All right, good possibility because there's no follow through. All right, or a fail, or you can look at it as possible effort for follow through here, but they failed to make a significant lower low. So now you know they're coming back up for the highs. Okay, they're going to try at least make an effort to get back up here and test the highs. So there's QQQ again, failure to follow through with the big igniting candle. Okay, we're up at the top of quadrant 4. That is bullish. And remember, QQQ is in an uptrend up there. Okay, let's take a look at FNGU. All right, here's FNGU. From the perspective of the low up to the high, we are bullish up here. From the perspective of the high down to the low, okay, we're still under the midpoint, and yet we're closing the second time in the bearish 1/3. Okay, so I usually box this stuff off. Okay, this is what I do. Okay, this is my quad lines. It starts right here, and it goes to down here. Okay, and if I look, okay, this is the quad lines up here. This would be the upper third. So anything up there is going to be bullish. Down here is going to be the lower third. Okay, so anything closing down here, look at this. This closed here yesterday, and this closed here today. Is bearish. Okay, so we're getting conflicting signals, right? So this is like, it's kind of tough to play, and it's kind of tough to get that bullish bias where I'm just going to blindly start buying the lows or picking off the lows of the option candles. Okay, when we got, this is the big boys. This is 10 of the most heavily weighted securities in the QQQ and SPY. Okay, so whatever we do tomorrow, okay, got to kind of be a little bit careful, all right, because this is still showing a little bit of a bearish attitude down here. Again, we're closing in the lower third of the move from the high to the low right here, okay? And notice yesterday FNGU did happen to ink out a little bit of a lower low right there. Just a little bit. Okay? So kind of throws us off a little bit. Just saying. Now if it's in the middle, that's neutral. And you notice SPY and QQQ were both in the middle. They were not in the upper third or the lower third. They were kind of just closing up here over the midpoint. Okay? So there's FNGU. Always got to keep an eye on this one, because when these 10 securities in this ETN move as a pack, all right, they can drag these two indexes, that'll be the NASDAQ and the SPY, right along with them, all right? So we got to kind of keep an eye on this, and then we got to go over and check out T2123. All right, so there's FNGU. Let's take a look at it on the daily chart. I'm going to take all this off and pick it up on the daily chart. We are on the daily chart. So again, we're up here in the upper quadrant. That's bullish from that perspective. From this perspective up here, we're looking bearish. We actually are, because notice I said we closed in the lower third. So we're looking bearish from this short-term perspective, but from the long term, we're still bullish up here from the bigger picture. Okay, so got to kind of be careful with this. Okay, so there's FNGU. All right, let's take a look at IWM. Just want to point out, IWM yesterday made a new all-time high. And it did it again today. Okay, another new all-time high for IWM. Okay, so that's small caps, mid caps making new all-time highs. FNGU is not. Okay, it's not getting it done. Okay, IWM is getting it done. All right, let's take a look at Diamond Dow. Okay, by the way, that's bullish. Top of quadrant 4 and in an uptrend. Right there, bullish and in an uptrend. Okay, Diamond Dow. All right, Diamond Dow, what do we got here? We've got a higher low and a higher high closing over a bearish trap and over the 17 EMA. That's both bullish right there. Okay, higher low, higher high, and closing over the bearish trap and over the 17 and over the midpoint. That's a bullish, all right, environment right there. Just having that happen. All right, but we are still neutral because we're on just the bullish side of neutrality. This is the midpoint right here. If we measure from this perspective of up here down to the lows, you can see clearly we're not in the lower third, but when we close this candle today, we're not in the upper third either. So we're just kind of neutral bullish, all right? So it's neutral, all right, on the shorter time frame, all right, from the smaller perspective, but from the larger perspective, we're up here at the top of quadrant 4, so that's bullish. And I wouldn't be surprised to see price kind of consolidate up here for a year, all right? I'm just saying, I would not be surprised to see if price consolidates up here for a year. But I don't think they're done, but they may take a break for a year and just consolidate up here, you know, between, I don't know, whatever this area, in QQQ, SPY, Diamond Dow, all of them, consolidate up here in the upper third. That would be cool to see it consolidate for a whole year, just move to the right. It would suck for us because everything would be stuck in limbo. There would be no more big bullish runs up, but there would be a few, you know, from the lows up to the highs. So there's Diamond Dow. All right, let's take a look at silver and gold. Gold, I'm pretty sure, made another new all-time high for gold. Okay, so if you didn't know it, that's bullish and in an uptrend. It's another new all-time high. I mean, the complete history of gold, it's never been any higher than where it is today. Okay? Okay? I'm talking about the troy ounce. I'm not talking about those retail boys, okay? Because those retail boys, they can really jack up the price on gold. Okay? Just saying. All right. Silver. Tackling the all-time high up here, okay? The high today, let me put the crosshairs on it. This high is 48.41. Let's go look at the all-time high. And that was like 12 weeks ago. So we're going to put the crosshairs on this. And the all-time high is, oh, you're going to love this, it's 48.35. 48.35. And we made 48.46. See that? 48.41. So that's a new all-time high for silver. Okay, new all-time high for silver. Of course, gold got a new all-time high. Look at that run. All right, new all-time high for silver and gold. Today, October 15th. All right, there's silver and gold. USO. All right, USO, put it on the daily chart. Got a higher low and a higher high, closing in a bearish trap. No, under a bearish trap, under the falling 17. Again, price not in the upper third, not in the lower third, kind of here in neutral ground. Okay, but in a downtrend because it keeps making lower highs and lower lows. So there's USO. It's neutral, all right, and in a downtrend. It's not ready yet. Still not ready. UNG. Okay, UNG made, yeah, I can see daylight here, made another new all-time low on UNG. Okay, so lower high, lower low, new all-time low ever in the history of natural gas for UNG. Again, price action closing under a bearish trap under the 17 EMA. So new all-time low for UNG. All right, let's take a look at our technicals, then we're going to wrap this up. T2101, okay, so let's remember we got bullish at the beginning of the day. Okay, so when we're bullish, it seems as though we lose participation. See? Participation comes down because we got bullish at the beginning of the day. But when we get bearish, we gain participation. Okay? See that? We go from this low up to this high up there. So when we're bullish, we lose participation. And then we gain participation when we go lower. Okay, so into those lows, you can see we gain participation. Okay, we bounced out of here. We had a double bottom in the reversal zone. This is the reversal zone in here. This is one bottom, two bottoms, and then we ripped up out of here. Okay, that's T2101 15-minute chart. That's the market breadth. Okay, so that's T2122, price action for today, not in, what is today's the 15th, okay, not in, yesterday we closed in the buy zone, today we opened up and we found ourselves up here in the overbought zone, okay, got thrown out by the bears, spent some time in the buy zone, and then took up the rest of the day inside of the buyer's chop zone, okay, for the rest of the day. Okay, nice thing is we stayed out of the seller's territory all together. Okay, so seems to be like there's some bulls still in town, still trying to rally price up, because you can see today, okay, we spent the whole day up here in above the seller's chop zone, above the sell zone, above the oversold zone. Okay, all up in here. We even made a visit to the overbought. We spent some time at the buy zone, and we spent the rest of the day in the buyer's chop zone right through there. So even that low, you can see the bulls bought it up. Okay, see the low comes in there into the prior close right in there. So T2122, that's bullish. Okay, up here, bullish. T2123, we're still in an uptrend, but not moving up. Okay, we're in an uptrend because we're making higher highs. Notice here's the high. We made a higher high. Then we made another higher high up here. See that? So we're bullish, okay, because we're making higher highs. Excuse me. We're bullish. We're up here. We're making higher highs. So we're in an uptrend. It's not a very strong uptrend because it's just moving to the right instead, okay? But it is inking out little mini higher highs up there. Okay, price is underneath the 200 SMA. Not my favorite place to be. Okay, notice clearly when they broke the rubber band candle, notice how price did not get recalled back to the 200 SMA. It just melted off into its exhaustion move, and now we're looking for price to rally back up over the 200 SMA. So 200 SMA on the 15-minute chart is hooking over here, okay? I like it when it's flat more than it's hooking over, because usually when it's hooked over and we hit it, sometimes we make lower lows, all right? So there's a 15-minute chart of T2123, okay? We're in 15-minute uptrend, but we're not moving up. That's not a good thing, okay? And you can see we're still stuck down here, okay, in the lower third of this move, so we're still kind of bearish right there. So that's kind of weird, isn't it? This is bearish, okay, but yet we go back to T2122. This is showing you bullishness, right? We're up over the midpoint. We're up here in the buyer's chop zone, in the buy zone, in the overbought zone. That's bullish, all right? But this is bearish. From the high down to the low, we're still stuck in the lower third, okay? So you got, see, that's what I'm saying about the conflicting signals. Okay, T2123. All right, this is a 3-bar chart. Got a low, we're making lower lows. Okay, so we're still in a downtrend. Okay, and we're still caught. I'm just going to say we're underneath the 200 SMA. I'm not going to give it to them. They got to earn it. Okay, underneath the 200 SMA right there. And from the perspective of the pullback, you can see we're still in the lower third. All right, so still kind of bearish right through here. From the bigger perspective, okay, we are up in quadrant 4. That would be bullish up there. Okay, but we're in a downtrend that keeps moving down. Okay, but we just got this exhaustion candle. So the question is, can they make a rally back up to the highs after this higher low? Okay, notice we got a higher low here. All right, if we take out that low, that would not be good. But if we got this higher low, I would expect the bulls to be inspired to run up here and challenge the high, and if not, make a higher high. Okay, after making this higher low. Here's a low, there's a higher low. Okay, so we'll see what happens. That's the 3-bar chart, T2123. Let's look at FNGU. Again, no help from FNGU today. Bullish gap up that got filled by the bears. Yep, you got it. Okay, so up and then floated down, filled the gap. Spent the majority of the day under VWAP, not the greatest place to be. And underneath the 200 SMA, again, not the greatest place to be. And you can see we're closing in the quad lines down here from the high to the low in the bearish section in the lower third. Okay, again, not the place to be. Okay, not my favorite place to be. So there's FNGU. All right, traders, that's it. So you got some questions? Go ahead and fire away. I'm here to answer them. That was kind of a long one tonight, but I wanted you to understand what I look for to gain my bias and to find the correct direction in the morning. Okay, I go through all of this. All right, it takes a while, but it does work if you take your time and recognize. Just have to have an open mind. All right, and look at things very carefully. Look at this. It's a head and shoulders right there. That does not look good for tomorrow, but based on what we saw last night, that bullish hold, okay, up over the midpoint on SPY, that looked good. So, but this does not look good. Thanks, KJ. Have a wonderful evening. I got a question over here. Okay, all right. All right, I'll fix that. I got a bad link. All right. All right, so that's it for me for today. Did I just... Okay, so that's it for me for today. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. All right? In the morning. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 o'clock. All right? Thank you, everybody.